All right, I'll call the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, June 23rd to order. Monique, will you please call the roll?
President Flores,
Here.
Vice President Shaw,
Here.
Secretary Duffy, Director Baker,
Here.
Director Anderson,
Here.
Director Kirkland.
Okay. Citizen communication, anybody wishing to address the board, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, approval of minutes. Consider approval of the BCRUA meeting minutes for April 28th, 2021. There should be a copy in your packets.
Second.
We have a motion from Director Duffy, second from Director Shaw. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, item number 5, resolutions. 5A, consider a resolution authorizing the president to execute a professional consulting services agreement with WIS Janae Elsner Associates Incorporated for a 36-inch raw water pipeline assessment. Ms. Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. President. This item authorizes a professional services contract with WIS Janae Elsner Associates, otherwise known as WJE, for $93,400 to perform an assessment of the root cause of the sudden fracture of BCRUA's 36-inch diameter raw water pipeline. The pipeline has now been repaired and is functioning well. There is a very small leak, described as about a half of the flow of a garden hose at the fracture point. It's not unusual for pipes to have small leakages. I'm sure you are aware of the measurement of water losses in each municipality. But we are inspecting it weekly, and over the past month or so, there's been no change in the flow. And we have had divers also inspect the entire length of the pipe, as we had talked to you all about early on, and no additional leaks were found. The repair cost of the pipe, as I'd reported to you, was ultimately $2.2 million. On top of that, we had an inspection of the entire pipeline for $165,000. And we are ordering spare parts in case something happens again. We will have on hand for $330,000. And the Water Development Board has funded all this with unused loan funds and are willing to also fund this assessment if approved. So this pipeline will be in service until 2027, until the deep water intake is complete. And the operating committee recommends retaining WJE to do an initial assessment of the cause of the break to determine the root cause, so that we know, A, is this an isolated incident, and B, is there more of the 3,000 feet of pipe that could be affected. WJE is a well-regarded forensics engineering firm. They've been around for 65 years, have hundreds of employees, and you'll see their name often mentioned when a bridge fails or some major infrastructure, doing the assessment to determine the root cause. BCRUA has contracted with WJE in the past when there was a lawsuit over the original Phase 1A construction. So they will examine and evaluate 3 separate pieces of pipe that we salvaged from the repair process. They'll do a metallurgical assessment and compare to standards for this type of pipe. They'll test the mechanical properties of the pipe. They'll investigate the chemical composition, and they'll do a fracture analysis. And they will provide a report to us that is intended to identify the root cause of the failure. Once this initial phase is completed, we will come back to the board with the results and discuss how to proceed based on those results. The operating committee and I recommend the award of this contract, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Bondi? Director Baker?
Hey, thank you for that. And I'd asked you a few questions during our briefing. And I just want to go over it briefly here. So everything that I heard sounds spot on as far as the analysis, but again, tell me a little bit about other possibilities that could have impacted this, ground settling, support settling, overpressurization of the pipelines, things of those nature that aren't necessarily the metallurgy of the pipe. So will all those things also be analyzed as well, or please update me on that?
Yes. Initially, they're going to focus on the pipe itself and determine if there is something in the material of the pipe, how it was forged, and to determine if the pipe is defective. And then a second phase is to do the types of testing you're talking about. That's not included in this initial assessment. And so if they come back and determine that it was the material, then we'll know that. If they determine that it wasn't the material, then I think we would move into those steps that you're identifying.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Director Shaw, second by Director Duffy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. 5B, consider a resolution authorizing the president to execute a contract for engineering services with Cave Freeze and Associates for the New Hope Drive Settlement Remediation Design Project. Ms. Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. President. This item authorizes an engineering design contract with K. Freeze and Associates in the amount of $78,223 to design repairs that were caused by settlement of a BCRUA pipeline trench located in New Hope Drive in Cedar Park. BCRUA delivers water to Leander and Round Rock through this pipeline. And Jason Bible, senior engineer at K. Freeze, has a presentation to describe the issue and approach to the repairs. So I'll turn it over to Jason for the presentation.
Good afternoon. How are y'all? This is the New Hope Drive Settlement Remediation Project. We conducted a preliminary engineering phase of this project where we performed some exploratory boring throughout the corridor. We mapped out the existing utilities, storm drain lines, and utilized the as-built drawings for the 78 and 72-inch pipeline installed within the New Hope Drive right-of-way. And we're able to correlate the settlement, the observed settlement within the roadway to the actual pipe trench. There's several different locations that were identified by City of Cedar Park residents and also the engineering groups. And we were able to confirm that that those settlement locations did line up with the pipe trench for the deep pipeline. Pipeline's about 12 to 14 feet deep along this corridor. And it's kind of difficult to see with pictures, the settlement. It's helpful to actually drive over the locations, and you'll definitely feel the bumps. This is a crossing near, kind of in between the railroad tracks and Main Street and Blockhouse Drive. This area has been patched several times, I believe, in the past. It's kind of hard to see, like I said, but if you're out there observing, you can see the cars drive by. You can feel it in your own car, and you can actually see a little bit where the curb and gutter dips through here as well, which is not standard. This is some longitudinal cracking across Main Street. This is a pretty significant dip. Again, it's hard to see in a picture, but believe me, in a smaller car, your bumper could hit the ground. You can see some of the settlement, especially in the sidewalk and this ramp here, where there's the concrete starting to spall. As the pipeline crosses to the south side of New Hope Drive, that is the south side. It does follow along the sidewalk, and typically a sidewalk has kind of it slopes toward the roadway. There's several locations where it is inverted, and you can see some signs of ponding, and that does correlate to the pipeline trench as well. One particular, this is kind of the biggest area. This is the New Hope Drive intersection with Blockhouse Drive to the north and Main Street to the south. This area has significant areas of settlement. We were able to kind of identify that there would be a deep pavement repair and then a shallow pavement repair. The shallow pavement repair would be essentially a 2-inch mill and inlay. The deep pavement repair would consist of a little bit deeper 24 to 32-inch excavation with confirmation by a geotechnical engineer in the field to ensure that the bad material had been removed and then compacted back up with black base. So you can see that there's, where the pipeline crosses, there would be significant repairs, new curb and gutter, and then at Main Street across the intersection, that would be an additional deep pavement repair, and then the area would be inlaid with fresh asphalt. A couple other locations where we see deep pavement repair, near Clover Lane and Yopon Trail. Again, like really kind of hard until you see a car drive that area, but we identified approximately 100 to 105 feet of deep repair in those locations. These are generally the details that we came up with. You can see the shallow repair on the left of the proposed pavement repair, it's the 2-inch mill and overlay or mill and inlay, and then on the right, the deep repair, which is the 24 to 32-inch repair with asphalt stabilized base or black base. And then the sidewalks would be reconstructed with compacted flex base. We did some preliminary estimated costs based on the repairs that we believe and the areas that needed to be repaired. We believe roughly $540,000 for construction with our professional services, and then we believe there'll be some geotech field services during construction. We had some contingency as well since we've only done the 30% design. So there's some pretty significant traffic control and detours will be required at Clover Lane, Yopon, and especially at Main Street and Blockhouse Drive. There's a school along Blockhouse Drive where the main access is coming off New Hope Drive, so we need to coordinate that with school. And we were able to make it out to the field in late April and confirm the locations with members of Cedar Park, Leander, and Round Rock as well. And we are ready to move forward with the design now. Any questions?
For Jason?
Director Baker.
So do you have any thoughts on what's led to the settling? Is it just prior construction? Is this normal along a pipeline? Was it a compaction issue when it was originally built? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, we did our bore exploratory boring program didn't really turn up a lot of results. We only got 4 bores. There was a little bit higher moisture content in some of that backfill. It's really hard to tell with a bore. You just don't get you'd have to do a test pit and really kind of compare everything around that. It probably is, we couldn't find really good records on the testing reports for the backfill, but most of the ground around here is rock, right? In this area, it's all rock. So you can imagine you've got rock, and then you've got an area where you've compacted backfill material, which is probably crushed limestone. It's just still not going to perform the same way as the rock subgrade. So that's kind of why we got this. water flow in the trench could also be a culprit. It's, again, hard to understand. We believe backfilling with this asphalt stabilized base will help kind of bridge that and give us a better pavement.
So when you're doing the project, I'm not so much worried about the blockhouse people, 'cause, but I'm concerned the Clover Lane, Yaupon, that's one whole neighborhood. So are they occurring simultaneously, or one and then moving on to the
One
next?
to the next, yeah. Since Clover Lane and Yopon Trail are so close to each other, we would only do one at a time.
Okay.
And then basically move the traffic control so that sufficient access could
Okay.
get around.
Yeah, because those are the main access points
Right.
onto New Hope. Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
So, best case, I mean, you think the issue or whatever you're thinking is going to find is going to be in that settlement area? I mean, is that typically how that works?
Can you explain that again? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, the areas that you identified, do you think that's where the culprit's going to be or the point of issue is going to be?
We do, yeah. You just don't see the settlement throughout. It's not like it's not throughout the entire alignment. But I think that this will help bridge that gap and make sure that the pavement all kind of reacts the same way.
So this is just for the design work to get everything ready to, at that point, to go out for a bid for construction?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Let me add, so the pipeline is owned by Round Rock and Leander because it does deliver water. When all the pieces of BCRUA that were being used by either one customer or two customers, where the cost was split between them. So it's about half and half between the two. And we have been working with your financial director, so they are planning for this expense. And the plans and specifications will be ready for our review in October. And so we'll have a better cost estimate at that time to bring back to the board. And we are, for this design fee, we are using unused operations funds for that. And then by the time we know what this cost is closer to October, then we will identify funds for those. But I think the different cities are approaching that differently. So the operating committee and I recommend the award of this contract, and we're happy to answer any additional questions.
Mr. President, one follow-up question.
Yes.
So as we're doing this project, will we get some feedback, I guess, from the contractors to see if this is something to expect in other portions of the line? I guess where I'm going to is I'm just concerned, is this putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem, or is this the problem? I guess that's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, one thing to think about is this project was built in 2008, so it seems that any issues would have shown up by now. So these are the ones that have shown up, so we're focusing on those. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and I think that there's got to be some flexibility in the construction as well. So the idea is that we would have a geotechnical engineer out there observing the excavation in these deep repair areas, and that the way we formatted the cost estimate is we basically said most of the work's going to be a more shallow section, and then we'll go down deeper to remove that the bad material that's not performing well. It's just it's usually too wet, it's too flexible, it doesn't have the right density, and so I think that there needs to be some flexibility in the observation, in the field observation, so that adjustments can be made in the field. And if as they're excavating, let's say in this 10-foot section, and they feel that it probably extends 5 more feet, then we need to go and repair that now as well. And so we're trying to have that flexibility once we move into construction, so that we can repair as much and help stop this from becoming an issue in another area along the roadway.
So, what's the potential timeline on the length of the repair? New Hope's a fairly busy road, both in the morning and the afternoon, with traffic, and there's going to be some substantial delays for
Right.
residents.
So all indications are right now, it was probably a 2-month project. I think that, you know, that area at Main Street and Blockhouse Drive, a lot of those lane closures and whatnot should probably be done at night, because it is so, you know, Main Street doesn't have a lot of options getting to New Hope if you're shutting that down.
Yeah.
And then the school traffic, turning left onto Blockhouse would also be problematic. So I think we need to work on the construction documents to kind of ensure that, you know, we're allowing egress through there while also protecting the commuters and the construction workers.
So you're not foreseeing any kind of detours or?
No, there's definitely going to be detours.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just not an option. The detours that, you know, are going to be at Clover Lane, Yopon Trail, and Main Street. But we're trying to minimize that to, you know, the maximum extent possible.
Okay.
So I drive this road pretty much every day. And I can tell you that I avoid the left lane like the plague right there. And it is truly astounding how much worse it is in the left lane than in the right lane. So a couple of things as you're doing this project, Jason and I go back a ways. If the material has failed under the pipe, we're in a lot bigger trouble.
Right.
Right? And you would think that as far as that's moved, maybe it's just pronounced when you drive over it, but I would be concerned that there's actual damage to the pipe, but we haven't seen leaks. So hopefully it's just the top. This is not, I mean, this is, that whole intersection is a nightmare to drive through.
Right.
I just drove through it last night going home because sometimes I take Blockhouse to get over to my neighborhood, and it really has to be fixed, but it should have never happened. So,
Right.
you know, I don't remember reading this, but we have to be sure of what the problem is before we spend $700,000 trying to fix it.
Agreed.
Because it is pronounced.
Right.
The settlement that's occurred through there.
Right.
And you know, it actually never occurred to me that it was the BCRUA line because the Cedar Park tank
It's
is right there. And
yeah.
I thought it was
Good
Cedar
point.
Park, you know, that there was a line
And it's-
problem there, and but you know,
Yeah.
it's very clear that
Yeah.
it's in alignment with our line. So
Yeah. So I think, you know, settlement under the pipe, I don't think that's going to be the issue there. You know, this is a trench in rock, right? And then you've got bedding material around the pipe. That's not moving, right? It's everything above it that's compacting and flexing. So, you know, you're not going to see the leaks in the pipe that you're concerned about. You know, it's really everything above it that we need to be concerned with.
Will you all be going down and inspecting the pipe? I mean, will we be going that deep?
That would be way more of a process than this project would allow. The pipe through here is probably 12 to 14 feet deep across the entire right-of-way. It's just, that's a huge excavation to get down there. And
So how would you determine if there's a leak in the pipe and it's saturating the soil above the pipe? I mean, will that become obvious as you're excavating? More than likely.
I hope so. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's groundwater. If there's groundwater coming in, you'll be able to see it from the sides, right? If there's water coming up from the pipe, you'll be able to see it from, you know, you'll just keep digging and never really find the culprit. At some point you get below where you would see the, you know, water coming in from the side and you're actually in the pipe trench, right? And I know that there is water in the pipe trench. The idea with this project was really to bridge over that and make sure that we have a structural element above that water that's in the pipe trench and in the backfill material and create kind of a better subgrade and base than what's currently there that we can pave over and drive. I recall a project where we were, New Hope Drive, Phase 2, I believe. as they were constructing that project, there was a significant amount of water in the trench that was flowing into the construction site that needed to be remediated. I mean, without some more structural elements in the pipe trench, you're just going to see it because you've got an impervious, virtually impervious surrounding in the rock.
Well,
you've got-
the trench is acting like a vector. Right?
That's right. That's right.
And so I guess just, again, thinking out loud, not being a pipe expert, but I know soils, and if you have a vector and it's washing out, and I mean, you could be getting settling from very small amounts of washing out over time. And so that means we need to stop the washing out. And that's why I'm curious, is it the pipe leaking? Is it the porous rock? You're getting storm runoff through there. And I guess, I'm just asking the question because I don't know. If we don't know those questions, how do we resolve this without having to fix this again in 5 years? And that's just where I'm trying to get to.
Right. I wish I had a better answer for you. What we're really trying to do, I think that if there's leakage in the pipe, you would see it in the meters, one, right? You would see it at the plant, and you would see it at the delivery points, two. There's gonna be some amount of leakage. I wouldn't expect it to be major. If it was major, we would have major bowing in the pavement section and water coming out at the seams, essentially at the cracks. We don't see that. We're gonna have to dig into the material in a better manner than what a boring machine will allow, that we can actually observe what's there and actually have to make decisions on the fly in terms of how deep and how far the excavations go.
But you said you will have a geoscientist or an engineer on site.
Absolutely.
So if they observe something that doesn't make sense,
That's
we'll
the
have to
key
talk
to the
through it.
project, honestly. Yeah.
Any other questions? So I think Director Anderson said we should include Cedar Park in the cost sharing of this. Is that what I heard?
Do you have a coin?
I would like to thank Cedar Park for their patience as we worked through this, as they knew we needed to do something, so we are moving forward finally.
All righty. Thank you for being here, Jason. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank y'all.
All right. No other questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to consider further authorizing the president to execute a contract for engineering services with Cape Rees and Associates.
Is there a second? I'll second. I'll second. So, motion by Director Duffy, second by myself. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, that takes us to item number 6. And before we get too far in that, I just want to mention that I understand that Director Shaw, this may be your last meeting. And so we do want to thank you for your time. Is that correct?
There's no may in that. This is it.
All
This
right.
is my last meeting.
And want to thank you for your time, certainly for your service to this board, and for showing up and being here and challenging us with some good thoughts and questions along the way. So I'll leave it open to other directors' comments, and Director Baker.
Just to Mr. Shaw, thank you for your service, and thank you for driving the discussion and digging into the data. I always appreciate that, and best of luck to you. And with that, good night.
Director Anderson?
Yeah, I too want to just thank you, Jason, it's been a pleasure serving with you on this board. And I got to say that it's really nice to be meeting in person again too, and not have Zoom with a BCRUA background behind me. So good to see everyone.
Okay, Director Shaw?
I'm a little disappointed that Northroom's not here. So, just y'all, especially for Leander, water is very, very important. So, trust but verify, and I'll always make sure you're digging into the data, because the data doesn't have emotion, and the data will never lie. So, the citizens are at y'all's mercy. So, big responsibility. So, thank you.
Director Duffy.
Just want to thank Jason for his time, and his one meeting as president was quite entertaining, and just, taking the time to be informed and, learning what BCRUA is about and how it impacts our taxpayers. So thank you.
Director Kirkland.
Jason, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Appreciate that, you've even had to stand up to some things, even in your own council meetings. Water's a precious resource. It's probably more valuable than gold in this part of the world where we have these droughts and everything. I'd like to also thank the staff and everything they do, and the residents for being patient through this entire process. Everybody have a good evening.
Very good, and I'll just say it is nice, as Director Anderson said, it is nice to meet in person with shoes and pants on, so that is a nice change for all of us. And then certainly want to congratulate Director Duffy and Baker on the recent election wins, so glad that we're successful and here with us again. And then finally, that we do have music on Main Street tonight, and I think that may be getting here shortly, so if you have time and interest, there is music outside that we prepared for you guys. So there's
I
no.
just have one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is Director Flores's last meeting as board president, so I have a plaque for him to thank him for his service. It says, in recognition of your dedication and efforts on behalf of Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, a regional partnership with Cedar Park, Leander, and Round Rock. Your service to the citizens is greatly appreciated. And I, in particular, appreciate your leadership, your level-headedness, your steadfast way that you approached all the challenging issues that we've had under your tenure, your leadership in getting Phase 2 approved and moving forward, which will, as Director Shaw said, really is pivotal for all these cities. And just had all the great questions you asked that helped us be better.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. No, it's been an interesting year, and so certainly I thank you for this. And sometimes I felt like that family member that you kind of keep hidden in the basement and don't want to bring out in public because we were on Zoom meetings all year. So that's okay. But anyway, thank you. And it's been a pleasure serving. I'm not going anywhere. I will still be around. So again, water is very important to all of us, and so we're always doing our best to make good decisions and informed decisions on behalf of all our residents. So if there's no further business, we stand adjourned.